All right, everybody. It is Easter Sunday here, and welcome to another episode of the Safely Extreme podcast, where we discuss game design and industry topics. I am Josh Beiser, and joining me, I guess, is Easter Shark this week from Nexus Games. How are you?
I'm Bunny Riffic.
There you go. Have you hit any eggs around?
Yes, there are eggs hidden around all over the place,
Nice.
and you have to find them and see what comes out. It's like a loot box, if you were.
We're a surprise mechanic.
Yeah.
All right. So, not sure
I'm not sure.
Uh-oh, you're cutting in and out there. Uh-oh. Test, test, are you still there?
There we go.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm here. I wasn't, but I am now.
You're getting the audio issues out of the start this time.
Yeah.
Alright. So, the big news this week, well, besides me getting the first shot of the COVID vaccine, it didn't bother me that badly. I was affected maybe like 3 hours after I got the shot and then it went away. Now I just gotta see how it happens in like, what, 2 to 3 weeks.
From my understanding, is whatever you're going to get, you're probably going to get in the first couple hours.
Yeah.
And how's your arm feeling? Is it still sore?
Yeah, I can't lift my arm like all the way up without like a little bit of pain.
So just slightly.
Yeah. The other news is that my third book is officially out in 4 days, and I have my early copy of it right here.
Nice.
So, we're looking forward to this one. I think they use fancier paper. I don't know if it's because they decided to do more with like the printing, or it's just because my book's a lot bigger now.
Or maybe you're just more famous and you earned.
Oh. Hey, Sierra and Shark, your voice went out again. Uh-oh. We lost Shark again. Is he there? Oh, wait. I hear something.
I am. Are you?
Yeah, you kind of like
Can
heard
you,
like the
can you
audio
hear
like
me?
cut again. Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay.
I really got to replace this computer case.
And so, as I was saying, the book is going to be out on the 8th. And I already submitted the a pitch for game design free-to-play monetization. And then I have this week, I got to type the one about deck building. I'm going to make sure to include every chapter saying Neon Continuum was pay to win. And I'm sure the publisher's going
I
to ask
thought
me,
you were
Josh,
doing free to play.
oh yeah, I could do it in both actually. I can
You've got to do it in both.
yeah. And the publisher will ask me, Josh, what is this Neon Continuum game you keep talking about? I've never heard of it.
Have you ever heard of Leaper?
Mm-hmm. And looking forward to that, and hopefully having some time to relax before I start writing all over again. So, how about for you? What's been going on with Neon Continuum?
Well, we have somebody doing, I guess you'd call it a tryout or a trial as a programmer. We have someone potential as an artist, but based off of the feedback, we're getting mixed feedback to whether we should go for this person or not. And progressing on the UI stuff. I mean, it is UI the game after all.
Thought it's pay to win the game.
It's also that.
Okay. But I think that is a good lead-in, getting things ready to show people for our main topic this week. And
well, what about other news? I mean, you have the news I told you about. You remember that?
Which one? There's been a lot of things going on behind the
The
scenes.
one on Assassin's Creed.
They're making another one, or they're changing?
The one with the world building, city building, Assassin's Creed.
I didn't look too much into that. Anything like more on there?
Yeah, it was April Fool's joke. and you bought it.
Yeah, I'm just like,
Why would you think that Assassin's Creed is building a city builder?
well, they did that as one of their systems, and I think it was Assassin's Creed, one of the ones built off of 2.
No, they didn't.
Yeah, they had like a tower defense mode. You had to like assign characters to it. I remember that. I think a lot of people hated it.
Now he's making his own proposal.
It's not like the best one because they keep messing with that formula. I would be surprised if they decided to make it a good one. Would have been they decided to just like turn to Call of Duty, or doing the Anno setting. Didn't see too much about April Fools this year other than that one. I think everyone's still reeling from 2020. All right. Anything else like actually news related?
Let's
see.
There was the CD Projekt Red 2.0. Did you hear about that?
They're starting a new studio, right? They're having like a new branch.
No, not necessarily. I think they're reconsolidating their stuff, but and adding a bunch more employees in the process. But the real news behind the CD Red 2.0 is CD Projekt 2.0 is basically they're going back and saying, hey, we did all these anti-consumer things, although they're not saying that, but we're going to be not that way anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And they're supposedly going to be the way that everybody said they were before this last game.
Mm-hmm.
And of course it is a whole bunch of PR speak, but I mean it may end up being true, it may end up not being. The fact is CD Projekt, like I was going to buy the game, and then I waited and seeing what train wreck it is, and CD Projekt Red is going to have to earn my trust back.
Mm-hmm. Somebody posted a piece on Gamma Sutra about which YouTubers are the right ones to play your game, and I am not mentioned at all on that list.
It's because you got so low subscriber count. I'm not on that list either.
Mm-hmm. Someday, right?
Yeah. Probably around the time you hit about 70K, 80K subscribers.
Well, then we need to do something controversial to speed that up, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. But with that, let's get to our topic then. And that is making a strong first impression. And when to show off your game to people for the first time. Because this is something I think a lot of indie developers, and we can even argue some developers who go from the AAA to the independent space, tend to slip up on. When it comes to kind of like that, the first big reveal.
Mm-hmm. And depending on if you're if you're an indie versus a or a unknown indie versus a known AAA or indie kind of thing, that first impressions mean different things to different audiences.
Yep, and that is very true. There's a difference between showing off, hey, I did a screenshot, rough concept art for a game to a group of indie developers versus, hey, here's a barely finished walk cycle. Here's to all my potential consumers on Twitter or YouTube or Reddit.
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't understand the differences between the two, it can be a very, hard hit to the kneecap of your game before it's even ready to be released.
Yeah, and kneecapping your studio as well.
Mm-hmm. So,
because here's the thing: if you're Clay Entertainment or if you're Nintendo or whatever, you can release a screen with 1 pixel on it, and only 1 pixel, and people will go nuts. It's like, oh my God, Clay released an image with 1 pixel on it,
and YouTubers will do reaction videos to it.
Yeah, do you think that's that must be the announcement for Oxygen Not Included too?
Nintendo's finally going to release Mother 3 in the United States.
Yeah, yeah, or that, you know, for Nintendo, you know, and you do that as an indie developer, and either nobody, you know, an unknown indie developer, and either nobody will ever know that you posted it to begin with,
Mm-hmm.
or people will be like, "What the heck, dude? You know, the
This is
heck
your
is
old
this?
game? Mm-hmm.
What is this? You know, is this a meme?
Mm-hmm.
It's a bad meme. You know, what is this? Is this your game?
Yeah.
Is this, so like the fact is when we're going to be talking, I believe that we're going to be talking from the unknown indie side of good impressions and not the, you know, AAA / Clay Entertainment massive indie kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so, you know, pretty much I don't think anybody that is a, you know, massive AAA or a massive indie kind of thing really watch this channel. They may from time to time, but you know they don't watch it on a regular basis. This is not a
Mm-hmm.
you know how to for them because they already know how to.
And they don't really need it, as we've talked about, too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, once you get to that point, you already have at least a good bit of the knowledge you need. You have the you know and your the rules for you changed as well.
Mm-hmm.
But we're going to be talking to those who will be watching this, and that will be, you know, a majority of them will be young indies who are very, very unknown. And
They just got out of school, or they're
I
starting
mean,
their first project.
yeah, I mean, have you ever heard of, you know, Ape Like Studios?
Mm-hmm. So,
You have?
sounds familiar. Let me see.
I was just pulling a random name out of.
Ah. Again, there's at least what, like several thousand indie developers. Probably somebody named that at this point.
Have you ever heard of Poop Incorporated Syndicate Studio?
Somebody could very well do that. You just never know who's on.
Anybody can do anything.
Yeah.
This is for them, you know.
Mm-hmm.
This is for them. This is the ones that have not ever, become famous yet.
Mm-hmm. And you need to be able to, as we've said, you should present your game as early as you can, especially to build up marketing buzz and hype. But the problem is knowing when is it at that point. And a lot of developers tend to struggle with this. Some will wait until the game is, 90-95% done. It's all finished, it'll be out next week, and there's no information about it whatsoever. Other developers will rush in. The second I have one finished concept art, I'm posting it everywhere on the internet for people to see.
Mm-hmm. And basically, I like to refer to this as hard marketing and soft marketing kind of thing. And for AAAs, it really doesn't matter kind of thing. But for unknowns kind of thing, what it means is hard marketing is when you post something that can be seen by, is likely to be seen by a lot of people or has a chance to be seen by a lot of people, that have no interest in seeing it kind of thing. This is the broad audience kind of thing. And then there's soft marketing that is only seen, I mean, it could technically be seen by anybody because like links work kind of thing. But the thing is soft marketing is, limited to those who are actively looking for that kind of content kind of thing. Which that would be like YouTube, because nobody's going to find your YouTube channel unless they want to find your YouTube channel.
Or dev blogs.
Well, and nobody's going to find your dev blog unless somebody wants to do it. Same thing goes with, YouTube dev logs. and dev streams and all that kind of stuff on YouTube. Nobody's going to find that unless they want to find it. Nobody's going to find your Discord unless they want to find your Discord, kind of thing.
You don't have a Discord, right?
No, never. Links are down in the description.
Mm-hmm.
But people are also not going. Game developers are not your audience. So,
I think we need to stay on that point for a second, because one of the things that I see a lot of indie developers do is that they'll post publicly on, Facebook groups, Twitter, Reddit, whatever, to indie developers. And indie developers are not, I think, the best judge of a game's quality or when a game should be ready to go out. And
no, they're good for feedback sometimes. Yeah. But they're not good for selling your game or telling you,
there's a problem.
Yeah. They can be. But they can also not be, depending on if you're going there to ask for feedback, kind of thing. And if you get, a whole lot of it's good kind of thing, unless you can see that it's good yourself, and you didn't, need to go for feedback, or unless it's you're 400 times getting feedback, and they've criticized it every time until this time when they said it's good now, kind of thing. Unless it's that, you need to be wary about that.
Yeah. And again, it's very hard because as we've said before, there is no such thing as, the it's done, magical check mark that you can put onto your game that is immediately available and, everything is perfect on it. Every game is different and every design has different rules that go with it. And you need to be very careful when you flip that switch, release the valve, however you want to call it, to show your game publicly to people.
Don't you mean turn the valve and release a Steam?
Mm-hmm. Pull an Epic. So here's an example that I want to talk about. I think they did this really well. So for those of you who remember the game My Friend Pedro, this was the kind of 2D, surrealistic Hotline Miami-esque game, but done in completely different style. It was really built around, skill shots, crazy kills. You're going to jump off a cart, do a backflip, shoot a guy, shoot a frying pan that bounces the shot into another guy, and it's just this orgy of craziness to it.
That could be mod.
And it was published by Devolver, so obviously it got very recognized for it. But I remember the first time I saw this game on just a random Facebook group that I was on, and the developer was just showing off a 10-second GIF of this game, and the character, walking and doing flips and shooting, and that was it. And it was damn impressive just in that state. And this was, I think, at least 6 months to a year before it was even picked up by Devolver, before anyone else really knew about that game. And the reason why I brought that up is that was a really strong first impression. And you can tell, and we've said this before. Thank you, Sursec. You can tell when a developer, quote-unquote, has it down, when they got it in terms of their game, and when they don't. And here's the question that I want to ask you about, Shark. What, in your opinion, do you think is, when you think a developer has it? When do you see that spark that a game is going to be good, just by either a screenshot, a GIF, a trailer alone?
I don't actually know, but I do know that it has to be polished and actually show something meaningful, kind of thing. And it has to not have phone rings. But one thing I do want to hit on is that, what I was saying earlier about the soft marketing, hard marketing, is that soft marketing is what you want to do as a unknown indie until you get to the end, and then you want to do the hard marketing at the end, kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
When which means that at the beginning, from the very start of development, start putting devlogs or whatever dev streams, whatever you want to and can on YouTube. Do blog posts. Post stuff on your Discord, and you can post the most broken stuff possible, kind of thing, because those people are there for you, kind of thing, and you need to do that as soon as possible, kind of thing. But do not post your that same stuff on Facebook or Twitter or any other place that is looking for really awesome stuff. When you that would be where you save that really awesome stuff, like that GIF you're talking about, kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
When you're not Devolver, kind of thing. I mean, Devolver is
Mm-hmm.
a different story, kind of thing. But
Yeah.
you want to save that really powerful stuff for when you have when you go into your hard marketing, which is usually probably in the last like 6 months, because basically what would happen if an unknown indie posted that GIF, kind of thing, a lot of hype would be built about it, and then that hype would just go right down, kind of thing, right after that. And then the next time you post, your everything will die down, and then you'll go into your next one, and you'll build up a lot of hype, and they'll completely die, and then it'll repeat over and over. And by the time you get to the end, you've maybe grown by, I don't know, 10 or 20%, kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And you're not going to get anywhere. Where when you save all those big hype moments for that last 6 months, kind of thing, you're taking one hype, and then before that hype goes down, kind of thing, you're throwing out more hype, and then it's hype building on top of hype, kind of thing, which means that when you get to the end, kind of thing, you're not going to be 10-20% higher. You're going to be probably a few 1,000% higher, depending on how big you were to begin with.
Now, one thing that I do find very interesting in today's market is that we're seeing more developers kind of get noticed by smaller to mid-tier indie publishers. Because there have been several games that I've seen the people post screenshots and GIFs for on, like, Screenshot Saturday, Feedback Friday, whatever, theme day you can think of that any developers use. And it has gone on to getting them minor or even major publishing deals. I know with New Blood, who's been publishing, Dusk, was it Faith, Ultra Kill, etc., that several of their latest acquires have literally come from looking at a screenshot or a GIF that was posted that was done so well that somebody sent to them and they actually struck a publishing deal with. But with that said, it was still a really damn good trailer GIF, however you want to say. Like, again, this is not somebody just posting, here's my rough version 0.000050 build of my game, give me a publishing deal.
Yeah, no publisher is going to touch you like that. The publishers are only going to look at you if you've already got everything, if you've already got your act together, basically.
Yep, and getting your act together, that is where, as we've said, a lot of developers tend to struggle with. Because we've seen developers who spend either not enough time on a game, or they spend so much time on it, and they're not really building something that I think is commercially viable. And we've talked about that before, developers who spend like 5-10+ years on their first dream idea.
And that's always a mistake.
And the problem is that, as we've said, there's a difference between talking to developers and talking to consumers. Consumers don't care about your sad story. They don't care that you spend the last 8 months trying to get this barely finished walk cycle done. They want to see something of quality and polish.
At least if you're posting it in some place that is the hard marketing places.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the soft marketing places, people want to see the broken stuff. You know, on your YouTube channel, you know, on
Devlog, Discord.
devlogs, you know, yep, Discord, your Discord specifically, not other people's Discords. You need to make that clarification, and also your YouTube, not other people's YouTube channels.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you want to, you know, because you don't want to get word of mouth from your broken stuff. You want to have word of mouth coming from your great stuff, and you want people who are already there supporting you and want to support you to see the broken stuff and help you get it not broken.
Mm-hmm. And like we've said, like, there always comes a time when you need to show your game off to people. And what I just said there, it sounds very, you know, simplistic. Oh, you mean I have to show my game to consumers that are going to buy it? But we see developers still have that problem. That they hold on to their idea way too long when they're not comfortable in terms of showing it to an audience. And then what ends up happening, of course, is that it's released and nobody knows what the hell this game is. And again, I have seen stories, and I'm sure Shark has as well, of developers who spend, you know, it could be 6 to 12 months, 2 to 3 years on a game. They release it, and nothing. You know, maybe it gets like 1 or 2 sales from friends and family members. That's it. And then it disappears forever and ever.
Yeah. I know that, you know, I've seen somebody on Discord who was actively doing this, you know, and going down that path. And I'm like, you shouldn't do that. You know, they were like, oh, I have 8 months in this game. You know, can you show us a screenshot of it? No, I don't want anything to be public yet. Can you show us a GIF? No, I don't want anything to be public about it. Can you give us a link to the game? No, I don't want anybody to see it yet. It's like,
when's it coming out? I don't know.
Yeah, it's like, you need to get feedback on stuff, and you need to do it early, which means getting testers. It means, which means finding testers, which you got to go out and be like, this is when you go to hard marketing places and be like, hey, I need people to test my game. It's, very early. It's pretty broken, but I need feedback kind of thing to make this the greatest game ever. Yeah.
Yeah, and to El Gordo's point, it's different between a game dev business and as a hobbyist. As a business, you need to be able to do marketing and PR, and that's another topic in of itself. But
it's more. I think it's more of a difference between a game dev as a business and a attempting and failing as a game dev business. Because these people are going for the business route, but they're taking very much the hobbyist approach.
And again, I'm sure somebody will say, well, somebody like Jeff Vogue does it like this, or Cliff Harris, or, I just do it just like Clay Entertainment. But as we've said, there's a difference between being established versus being unknown and doing the same tactics.
It's like if I make a video about the 10 things that you want to see kind of thing, nobody's going to see that except for maybe 3 people kind of thing. Now, if PewDiePie makes that video, 10 billion people will see that, and, that's the difference between being known and unknown.
Yeah. And again, like, when we talk about companies like, and I think Clay is still a really good example, because Clay lately has either gone one of 2 routes. They either put their game out in early access like 80 to 90% of the way done, and they use those last 20% as feedback and marketing, or they put it very early on, something like with Grifflands or the original auction not included, and then they're on for months if not years of early access. And either approach works for them because they have that clout and that good reputation built up with the consumers. And of
Mm-hmm.
course, they know a thing or two about game design at this point.
Yeah. Where if you as an unknown put out the most earliest, most broken version of your game, it's not going to go well.
Mm-hmm. And that, I think, I want to expand on that point for a second as well. Because, as everyone knows, I, of course, play the board that I'm always looking for new indie games to show off and, play for our Wednesday night streams and for the Spotlight videos. And I get a lot of games from very much unknown developers, people that I'm sure no one here would know of unless you already know them on either my Discord, Shark's Discord, or Tim's Discord. And when they show me these games, I get the gambit in terms of quality. There are some games where I load it up and it's just literally like, here's 2 minutes of footage, completely janky. There's no menus, no options, anything along those lines. And the problem is that when I think it goes back to what we were saying earlier, that they think that I'm a developer. They think that I'm just going to sugarcoat it, or, I don't care about that stuff. But the
Mm-hmm.
thing is, I do care about that. Because when I'm trying to show games off to consumers, I have to show it off in whatever light that you're providing to me. If your game is unplayable and annoying and frustrating, I can't make that look good. And it's a reason why I always tell them that you have to be sure that your game is in a position where you are comfortable with people looking at it. And I don't mean, your developer friends, your family, people who already love your stuff. I'm talking about people who don't care about your name. They don't care if they ever see or hear from you ever again. And if your game can't excite them, it's not going to excite anybody.
Yeah. I mean, they don't care if you die in the ditch because
Mm-hmm.
they don't know you.
Yeah.
Because there is somebody who died in the ditch and we don't know him. So,
Yep.
I mean, we don't care.
Like, here's a good example of a positive one. If you remember that indie developer that I did a live cast with, it was kind of like the FTL deck building multiplayer game. And we played that one on stream for about 40 minutes to an hour. And the whole time he was telling us, yeah, it's still very rough, I don't, this is still early, we're not ready to show it off, publicly yet. It was very impressive in that version of that game. And again, as we've said, like, for people like Shark and myself and those who study game design, we can tell reasonably well when a game has it. And it's a combination of having a good aesthetic and art done. It's about knowing what your core gameplay loop is. And this may sound very shocking. It's about putting out a relatively bug-free build for people to play.
Mm-hmm. I mean, bugs are acceptable, but
Yeah.
you don't want too many of them, and you definitely don't want any gameplay breaking ones that you know of.
Yeah, like if I turn on your game, hit start, and the entire game crashes, that's not a good sign.
Yeah. If your game ever has crashed once in the first 2 minutes of play, you need to go back and fix that before anything else. You remotely think about showing it to anybody.
Yeah. And again, as we've said, a lot of the stuff for this week's cast and this recording, it sounds very stupid when we say, just make sure your game doesn't have bugs in it. Make sure your game is playable. But we have seen time and time and again that developers fail to catch these problems. And ultimately, the lesson for, I think, this week's show is that consumers and developers are two very different groups. One is your audience. These are the people you are trying to court and get them interested in your game. The other are people who are trying to do the same things as you are, and they want to support you just as you want to support them. But making a game that is entirely aimed at other developers is not the same as making a game that's aimed at consumers.
Yeah, I know. I ran into one of those developers that, um, you know, in the last game, the old word of the day, Chromasia. I showed another developer, an artist, the artwork and everything, and she immediately knew that that the art styles did not match, and she's like, "Did you have multiple people working on this?" I was like, "Yeah, like I did this stuff, and somebody else did this stuff, and somebody else did this stuff, kind of thing. But I did most of it, kind of thing." And a few questions, kind of beating around the bush, and then she didn't say anything, and like it. I wish she had told me, hey, you're having a problem with mismatching assets. Let me show you here, and here. This is this way, this is this way, and this is this way. And you might want to change that so that it can sell well, kind of thing. And the fact is, she didn't say anything, so that problem flew completely under the radar for me, and I didn't find out about it until much later when my game died, kind of thing.
And I also want to stress this point because I said this in a piece I wrote. Excuse me. People like soliciting feedback is not the same as hiring somebody. Remember, when you show your feedback on a Discord, on Twitter, whatever, nobody has any stakes or allegiance to your game. And like we said, like with that example, like if you hired her to do the art, I'm sure she would rip it apart. Like if you remember the example we were talking with the developer from Wasted Noughts, when he hired somebody to do UI design, and she just stared at the screen in object horror at what she was witnessing in the very first build of it.
Yeah, that was. I really wish they had a recorded version of that. But the fact is that she said nothing, and that's the reason why now when I see somebody with feedback and everything, I tell them how it is. I don't mince words. I don't sit there and be like, hey, this is crap. You need to go start over, kind of thing. I'm like, here's a problem, 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 and I'll just tell them how it is. I'm not going to be rude about it. I'm just going to tell them here how it is. And some people, will take that and be like, oh, you're being rude. It's like, no, I'm just telling them what I see.
Yeah, and like if you remember, I did that talk with John Brieger. We talked about play testing and user feedback. That a lot of people don't like to hear that their game is bad when it unfortunately is. And you need to accept this feedback. And this is why we're saying why seeking feedback explicitly from developers and just using that as your metric is not the best way forward. Because most developers aren't going to turn around and say to another developer, this is horrible, this is a crappy thing, you need to change it. They're going to say something like, it's okay, or, I liked it.
That's the thing I love about Tim's Discord. We need to get him back on for the roundtables. But in Tim's Discord, you post something for feedback, and people will go at it, and they will legitimately give you feedback. They have, an event that they do, used to be every 2 months. Last month it was only once a month, but, I don't know what it'll be this coming month. Hopefully 2 or more times, but they have an event where, you hop in a voice chat, and people will give you feedback, everybody in voice chat, and they will tell you, point out everything that is wrong with it. They will point out things that aren't wrong with it that could be better, and they will tell you how to make it better, kind of thing, with suggestions and all this other stuff. And it's magical, because feedback is the key to making a great game.
And this is why when smaller developers submit their games for my weekly shows, that I grab the timestamp and the part of it when I talk about the game, and I send them that link. Because watching somebody like me play and break down what I'm doing in your game is like worth like 100 playtesters, especially to a smaller developer who has never gotten that level of feedback before. And you need to pay attention to this stuff. Because,
Yep.
like we've said, somebody like me looking at your game is not the same as a consumer looking at your game. And it's not the same as a developer looking at your game. And when you are trying to put your best foot forward, ultimately, you need to think about the consumer. And it sounds weird when I say that after spending the last few minutes on about why, I need to look at your game and I provide feedback. But at the end of the day, there's only one of those three groups that's actually going to spend money and try to support you financially. And that's the consumers.
Yep. Because game devs are not your audience. Game dev may buy your game, but they're not your audience, kind of thing.
And neither are YouTubers and streamers and people like that. Like we've said, there are people who assume that, a game is successful because PewDiePie or Markiplier or Northern Lion plays it. Maybe someday they'll say it about me or in Shark, in like 20 years. We'll see. But as we've said, the reason why those games succeeded, it's not because they played them. They play them as a result of those games succeeding. And it's a very subtle difference.
Yep. It's a very simply extreme difference.
Mm-hmm.
Because, here's something I'm thinking about doing myself. And, maybe Josh can get in on this with me, kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
But what I'm thinking about doing is starting to offer a service kind of thing where, where I spend, I charge people X amount of money to spend, time playing their game kind of thing. And I'll just record it and give them, the feedback kind of thing that what I think they need to do with the game. And it's sort of, it's definitely feedback, but it's also sort of a, what do you call it?
Sponsored play, let's play.
No. This would be not on YouTube. It would be private.
Playtesting?
Well, it'd also be playtesting, but like, what do you call it when you go to a business and you tell them how they're fucking up?
I know what you're talking about. I can't think of the term. Analyst, not contractor. I can't think of the term off the top of my head.
You hire them and they come into your company and they tell you, here's what you're doing wrong, here's what you're doing right, let's change this now. Mm-hmm. Let's get this all right.
Consultant?
Yeah, consultant. That's the word. Basically it's a sort of consulting job of your game kind of thing.
Yeah. I mean, I'm trying to do a lot of that on my end as well. And it is very tough, again, for developers to be able to see where they need to improve on. So, I think we're kind of like going like up, we're kind of like going like around different topics here. But to bring this back to the main one, when do you show your game off? Like, when is it time? And as we've been like kind of beating around the bush for the last like 20 minutes or so on this topic, you need to be able to show your game off when you have something concrete. And when we say concrete, we mean, a playable demo. Not, a 1 to 2 minute, teaser reel or sizzle reel. Like, if you have something that you can play and, the assets are done in this, get the word out about it.
Yeah. And you of course it needs to be polished too.
Yeah. If you're putting out, a 5-minute gameplay demo, that better be the best damn 5-minute demo that you can do at that time.
Yeah. Or maybe even period. Because you don't want to show off, at least if you're going to the hard marketing side, you don't want to show off anything that is not basically finished, you need to consider it finished basically before you show it off, hard marketing wise. Doesn't mean it technically is finished because people may point out problems with it, but and you'll want to go and fix those kind of things. But you need to, in all intents and purposes, consider it finished when you release it. At the same time, you put the notice on, this is alpha kind of thing. This is not finished. This is not going to be representative of the final product kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
But you want it to be as final as you can possibly make it, kind of thing, so that when people look at it, they're like, "Damn, this is amazing! I can't wait to see what it's going to be like when it's finished," kind of thing.
Yeah. And one of the things I've said a lot, and so far, hey Soren, how are you doing? And so far, no developer has managed to change my mind on this aspect. Is that if I spot any major issues with a game, in the very first early access, the very first demo that I see, the sad part is most likely that issue is not going to be fixed. I have yet to play a game that I've seen in early access where I've gone, this is bad or I'm not enjoying it, to then playing the finished version and being like, oh my god, I can't believe how amazing this game has grown. And the reason is that a lot of developers, or a lot of these issues that we've talked about, they need to be found and fixed as early into development as possible. Because if you wait too long, it becomes almost near impossible to fix it without completely tearing apart your game and starting it all over again.
Yeah. And there's also the fact is if you play it and you get completely, like you don't enjoy it at all the first time you play it, there's a good chance you're not going to go back to it again. So even if it does get good, kind of thing, then they're not likely to see it because you just burned them out. And they more than likely got a refund too. So, but at minimum kind of thing, even if they don't refund, they're not likely to be back.
And unfortunately, a lot of developers don't understand that. They think, if I fix this, so-and-so will come back, or I'll get, 10,000 more eyes on my game. No, it doesn't work like that, because there are games being released daily these days. And once again, unless you have a name like No Man's Sky, or Clay, or, pick any of the mid to larger tier indie developer teams, people aren't going to be willing to give you a second shot.
Yeah, most people aren't even willing to give you a first shot. So, don't blow your first shot when you do get them, kind of thing, because those are so hard to get to begin with.
Yeah. And this is one of the reasons why we talk about when we look at Kickstarter and early access games, that you need to be at the point where the content that's in your game is done. And what we mean by that is, if I load up your Kickstarter demo or your early access build, I should be able to see everything that's going to be in 1.0 of your game. Is it going to be fully polished? No. Are there going to be maybe missing assets or placeholder art? Maybe. But I should be able to play your Kickstarter demo, your early access build 1.0, whatever you want to describe it as, and know what this game is. I should be able to play this and get, a finished product, or the feel of a finished product in that version already.
Yeah. It's much rather, you would much rather release a 5-minute game that is like finished basically than a 40-hour game that is like 5% done
with missing assets all over the place. Or you try to click on a game system and it says this is not available yet, or it's not developed yet.
Yeah, and every system says that.
Oh yeah, that's always good.
And all you can do is do one basic thing,
or just walk across a field, and that's your entire demo.
Yeah.
And again, for developers listening, it sounds like we're creating a catch-22 situation. You want to release your game as early as possible to get as much feedback. But don't release it too early when it's not at a point where people can actually play it, or they're going to give you the worst feedback, or they're not going to like your game.
Mm-hmm. It's safely extreme. It's not a catch-22. It's a catch safely extreme.
There we go. But you need to understand when your game is presentable. And it's something that I ask a lot of developers. If you listen to casts where I've talked to developers that are either going on Kickstarter or on Kickstarter, or they just released on Early Access, I always ask them the question, why did you feel that now is the right time to go on it? And some of you may think that's just me, throwing out a joke question or, a softball or lobbing a softball at them. But it is a legitimate question. Because, what was that?
The thing is if you throw a softball at somebody and you hit them with it, it hurts.
Yeah. But the reason why it's legitimate is that you need to be able to understand as a developer, kind of get the, see the forest for the trees aspect on your game. Can you look at your game objectively and say, I think this is ready for people to look at? Or say, no, I may like it, but consumers aren't going to enjoy this in this current state. And that is incredibly difficult for a lot of people to do.
Mm-hmm. Incredibly, because you really have to get the game into such a position, and the way you get it into such a position, the way that is you get feedback. You put it out, you do your soft marketing, and when people are going, wow, that's amazing, kind of thing, then you're either there or you're getting there, kind of thing. And I've had people be telling me about that Continuum for the last, I don't know, 6, 7, 8 months, kind of thing. But it's not ready. It's not there yet, because I need to get programming on track. I need to have people playing it. And I've had people play the original demo and say, wow, that's amazing, kind of thing. I need both of the amazings to come together, and I need a few more amazings to pile it off before it is at the point where I can really go hard marketing with it.
And like we've said, if your very first version of your game, when there's no art in it, is just literally the proof of concept of your gameplay, and people are loving it, that is a strong step forward. But that's not the only step you need to take.
Yeah. And so as you can pay people to play it and sign an NDA, I find both of those points kind of pointless. I mean, you can do that, but you can not pay people and not have people sign an NDA and have them play it for free, and based off of feedback. They pay with feedback, kind of thing.
They pay with exposure.
You're giving them a key, and they're giving you feedback in exchange for it. So they're purchasing the game with their feedback, kind of thing. And you let them keep the game, kind of thing, as long as they give you feedback from it. And and don't make them sign an NDA. I mean, maybe you might want to sign an NDA, but I would not. Because I like keeping my development pretty open and public, kind of thing. And I post on my Discord and everything, because keeping that open and public, kind of thing, doing devlogs and stuff like that, that's your soft marketing. So by doing the NDA, you're killing your soft marketing, kind of thing. So I would suggest doing the soft marketing and not an NDA, and not paying people for it, because most indie developers can't afford to pay for it.
Yeah,
I know. I sure can.
If you're, again, as we said, there's a difference between being a major company like a Nintendo or Clay, where you want to keep things secret for a big reveal, versus being a no-name indie developer, when You were just desperate for somebody to even, think about clicking on the start icon for your game.
Yeah, exactly.
Now,
You don't. That's the reason why you kind of want to do that self marketing and get your name out there. Slowly, but only to people who are looking for it.
mm-hmm.
And I mean, these streams, get me a little bit of that.
Mm-hmm.
Not much, but a little bit, kind of thing, and
Mm-hmm. And just being able to get the word out about your game is very important. And
Mm-hmm.
again, it's the issue that I think we see from a lot of developers who go on itch as well. That while we've said you can measure success in different ways, just getting somebody to click on your game and play and say, it's okay, that's one point of success. But you need to keep building on it. And we've used the snowball analogy many times here. That if you do things right and build up that momentum, it's going to keep going and going until a point where it just basically, your game becomes marketing onto itself. And that is kind of the goal for every indie developer. That you can just say the name Darkest Dungeon or Auction Not Included or Factorio, people immediately know what those games are.
Yeah. And Soren says he would recommend paying people to play it, even if it's just $20. Well, game keys often go for about $20, so there's $20. But the only reason I would see for NDA kind of thing would be specifically on story kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
You wouldn't want to reveal your story before your game came out. Public. You wouldn't want word going around about that kind of thing. But I just don't put the story into the game until the very end. Basically, I get it all ready, kind of thing, and don't put it in there until close to the end. But what I do is what I do. What I do is I go to certain people I can trust, that aren't going to tell anybody, that I don't want them to, kind of thing. And I don't need an NDA because I know they're not going to tell anybody. And it's like, here, look over the script and tell me what you think, kind of thing. And, when I do that, I get feedback and whatnot, and then I make adjustments. And then I do that several times over and over again, and I adjust and adjust and adjust.
Mm-hmm. And you need to be able to do that because when it's time to show your game to the consumer, and again, for every game out there, it has to happen. You can't just, again, develop a game endlessly or just put it on a site and never worry about it. Because if you don't care about consumers looking at your game, then you're not in this as a business.
Oh, you can absolutely do those things. You would just absolutely fail because you did those things.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you could absolutely, jump off the Golden Gate Bridge, but you're probably not going to live from it.
Mm-hmm.
You could do it, just highly, highly, highly unrecommended.
So, getting back to what I was saying a few minutes ago about going on Kickstarter, going on early access. Typically, the answer that I get from developers is that they feel that the game is at that point where it's presentable. And as we've said, presentable for one game is different for another game. Mm-hmm. But ultimately, I think we can agree, from our talk, that what you're showing to people should be the absolute best possible version of your game at that moment in time. And again, mm-hmm. the at that moment in time is a major caveat.
Yeah. And that does not mean a vertical slice. It does not mean a horizontal slice. Mm-hmm. It means a diagonal slice that is maybe not complete, kind of thing. What it means. Mm-hmm. Meaning that it's not all the programming done and none of the art done. It's not all the art done and no programming done.
Mm-hmm.
It's a lot of the programming done and a lot of the art done. And they're and of course the design is basically completely done outside of feedback, and the writing's probably mostly done, if it's and they may not even reveal it, or maybe they just reveal the first part of it, kind of thing, in a 5, 10, 15 minute demo kind of thing. But the thing is while all of that is done, kind of thing, they're not going to show you all 80% that they've done, kind of thing. They're going to show you the most complete, polished section of that they want you to see. And oftentimes that's the very beginning of the game. The first, 10, 15 minutes of the game. Because you want your first part of your game to be the most epic and polished over the top. You know how we talk about code openings and trailers and whatnot? You want a code opening in your game. You do the code, the same way you want to do a trailer is the same way you want to do a game. You want that code opening at the first start of your game, and then it'll slump off and it'll start building stuff, and then you'll elevate and build more, and then you'll elevate and build more, and then you have the climax here. And then maybe at the end, after you beat the game, you'll have some funny joke or something closing, kind of thing.
Yeah. And here's a good analogy, or a good way to explain what we mean about content done versus what can come later. When I played a game like The Void Rains Upon Her Heart, or Monster Train, or Slay the Spire, or any one of these kinds of very content-heavy style games, where, they add in dozens of cards after the first version of Early Access of Slay the Spire, or so many items in Dead Cells, and new bosses and features in Void Rains Upon Her Heart. When those games are put on the very first version of Early Access, everything design-related was done. Was it balanced? No. But every system that they wanted to be in the game was in it in that very first version of Early Access. Over the course of developing the game, they added in more content to supplement those systems. And that is the key differentiator here. When you're on Early Access, or you're releasing your first version of your game, or anything along those lines, every system that you expect the player to be able to experience should be in that game. Is it as fully fleshed out as it's going to be? No. But like we've said, it should be the best possible version of your game at that moment in time.
Yep.
And if you don't do that, then you are starting off with a handicap for your game. You're at -5. Or, if we're talking golf terms, you're at +3 or whatever.
But yeah, you need for an early access game, you need to have it very polished and everything before you think about going early access, kind of thing.
And some people, and I've said this in one of my posts, some people will argue, well, that's not possible to do. And I would argue that, yes, it is. Because if you can't explain to me what your core gameplay loop is in your first public build or your first early access, how can I trust you to finish that game?
Yeah, I mean, they may be thinking about it's not possible because my budget won't do that kind of thing. Well, you better get good at budgeting.
Yep.
Or you better be good at fundraising. But you better get good at it without doing a Kickstarter because it's not ready for Kickstarter.
And some developers will, like going back to my Kickstarter answer or question, some will just say, we ran out of money and we needed more. And typically those are the ones that are some of the harder ones to succeed on. Because there's a difference between going on Kickstarter and doing crowdfunding because you want to do it, to give you that little extra bump, versus you need to do it or your game's not going to get made.
Mm-hmm.
And sadly, the ones that need Kickstarter sometimes are the ones that are the roughest or the hardest ones to actually succeed off of that.
Mm-hmm.
And again, it's hard to talk about these things because nobody wants to see a game fail. But,
I mean, some people.
Yeah, the masochists. So no, the sadists in that regard. But if you want to succeed, you have to put in the work for it.
I don't think it's the sadist. It's the people who want to watch a world burn.
Mm-hmm.
It's the jokers of the world.
Yeah.
The sign of the masochist there.
Yeah. And for a lot of developers, like if you look at the thumbnail that I chose, or I put like Slay the Spire and some various characters, that sometimes you just need to have one thing really, really well done, and that can be the match to light this whole thing up. Going back to the my friend Pedro example, like that gift that he showed off of the character flipping and shooting and all that, that was impressive. This was long before Devolver was even anywhere interested in them. This was just when he had a proof of concept. But he showed that publicly when it was as done as it could be. Like, that was finished in terms of art and aesthetics. And it worked for him. What was that?
Done polish-wise too, wasn't it?
I think so. And again, when you're at that point, when you have something that you are proud of, that you can you are fine with stamping your company's logo or your watermark on it, get that out to people.
Well, I don't know about that. Because some people are very proud of the things that we shouldn't be shown in public. Yeah. Hey, look, this character can move side to side. Yeah. I'm proud of that. Let's show it to everybody. So maybe make it where not just you're proud of it, but you take it to a random person and they go, wow. Yeah. If you can take it to a random person, put it in front of them, and maybe not every random person, but you go to a few different random people that play games kind of thing, and some of them say wow kind of thing. And wow, that's good, not wow, that's horribly awful. Then you're ready to show it off.
Yeah. When you are at the point where you can sit there and think, I could sell this to somebody, that is, I think, a really good step forward. When we say sell it, I don't mean put it on Steam for $1.99 or 99 cents or put it on for free. No, it should be at the point where you can comfortably say, I think this is a $15 game or a $20 game or anything along those lines.
Yeah. What about an infinite dollar game?
You mean a Blizzard game?
I mean a pay-to-win, loot box. Game.
And like we've said, ultimately, the goal of all this is to not only get eyes on your game, but to hopefully get money from people to check your game out. And you have to be at that point where people are willing to spend money on your game. If your game is not the point where, people would even consider throwing $1 at it, it's not time to show it publicly.
Yeah, when you show off the game publicly, aka hard marketing, not soft marketing, we need to make that clarification.
Yeah.
Because your YouTube is technically public, but nobody's going to find that, that isn't interested in you. What we mean by publicly is Twitter, Facebook, stuff like that kind of thing. Anywhere where at any time, something can get like somebody to retweet and share and stuff can go viral. Any place where stuff can easily go viral kind of thing, you want to avoid. And the only time you want to show it up there is when you get that wow factor kind of thing. When people look at your game and they say, shut up and take my money, that, when you get the wows and the shut up and take my money, then you're ready to take it to Twitter and Facebook and other places to show it off hard marketing wise. Yeah. But, again, you want to save that hard marketing for the last bit because you want to build up on hype on hype on hype.
So here's a question. When we review Steam store pages, is that soft or hard marketing or kind of in the middle?
That would be soft marketing. Because the fact is number one, your YouTube channel doesn't have 1 million subscribers. It's got like, what, a few thousand? Number two, your view counts are sub 100 or 100-ish kind of thing. So not very many people are going to see it to begin with. And number three is when we review the pages, nobody's expecting us to, nobody's coming there to buy a game. They're coming there for education purpose. But here's the opposite side of that. When you put it on Steam, though, when you put it in Steam, you are hard marketing. So our video on the store pages is soft marketing, but the video, the Steam page is hard marketing. And when you don't want to put your Steam page up too soon, you can make a Steam page before that point and just not have it be public.
Oh yeah,
because it takes a while to become public, kind of thing. You have to. Foreign's commentary. But
and you broke Shark there, Foreign.
Yeah, it is a demon. But like, oh, what was I saying?
About putting your store page up.
Oh, right. When you put up your store page, you don't want, not when you make your store page, but when you actually put it up and make it public, you don't want to just make it public and that's it, kind of thing. You want to make a big event of it. You want to, make all kinds of Twitter posts about it, make all kinds of Facebook posts about it. Do all your hard marketing. Contact journalists and tell them, hey, this game is out or coming out. This game, we just put up our Steam page. Go check it out. Report on it, kind of thing. You want to go tell everybody and anybody you can. And that is basically generally when you want to start your hard marketing campaign, when you put your Steam page up. So don't put your Steam page up before you're ready to do the hard marketing.
Yep, and don't do your Steam store page before you have a game that's ready to be shown.
Well, I mean, you can do your game before it's ready to be shown, because the fact is you can get playtesters to play off of Steam keys. So you can do like the Steam page on day one, and then put the game up on Steam and give out playtest keys to playtesters, kind of thing, and only the playtesters will be able to see the anything.
I'm talking about actually turning your store page to public, when it's actually going that far.
Yeah, you don't want to turning your store page public is the start of the hard marketing, basically.
Can a page be reused? I don't know. I think it would be better to create a new store page. Wouldn't you say?
Okay, so I'm not 100% familiar with this. So this is what I think, but
Mm-hmm.
this is not 100%. So take this with a huge grain of salt, and you need to talk to Valve about this kind of thing. Basically, I delisted my last game kind of thing. I have read some places, and I believe they were official, that I'm able to now use that slot to put up a new game.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if that, deletes my old page. I don't think it would, because the fact is that people already own that game. So, like, it wouldn't make sense to remove that page. So I think it means that I would get a new page and not reusing my old one for the next game I put up, that I got, basically a refund for delisting it kind of thing,
Mm-hmm.
or credit, and that's how I think it works, and if you're if you're if you're doing a remake of the same game as a new one kind of thing, you still want to make a new page kind of thing. You can copy and paste everything you have from your old store page to your new store page, but then you need to do work to that, because obviously you got the remake and not the original one. So there's going to be different assets, different this, different that. And obviously, if you're doing a remake kind of thing, your first game probably failed. So you need to go to our other show, Indie Inquiry, and figure out why your store page sucks, because we haven't even found anything better than A minus. So, like,
Mm-hmm.
it's safe to say your store page sucks, because we haven't even found a really good store page yet. And then you need to, maybe submit your store page to the show kind of thing. Maybe submit your old one kind of thing. Since you again don't want to put up your new one until you're ready for hard marketing kind of thing. But like I wouldn't. The fact is if a game already failed on you, just putting it back up in the same state or with the same Steam page or anything like that, it's not going to work. It's not going to help you kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
So I wouldn't ever technically reuse something. I would get credit for a Steam store page maybe, and then start a new store page, and then maybe base that up, start with the old one as a base building block and then build upon that, kind of thing, and build it up better kind of thing. But I would never directly reuse.
Mm-hmm.
But again, I'm not 100% on that Steam stuff, so you're going to have to contact Valve on that. Mm-hmm. I still have to contact Valve on that. But that's what my understanding of it from what I've read. But I don't have any official words from the source kind of thing. And also on top of that is, whenever you're watching this video, whether it's now, right this second, or 20 years in the future kind of thing, things are likely to be different,
Mm-hmm.
So, maybe, something that's true now is not true then, or something that's false now is true then, who knows?
Is that safely extreme or just a nightmare?
It's safely nightmares.
There we go. Is that the sequel to Little Nightmares?
Yes.
There we go. And as we've said, every game is going to be different. There's a reason why we're not doing specifics for this episode.
Because we don't know what we're talking about, right?
Of course, yeah. I don't know why people are watching us. But the reason is that for a lot of these games, one game's finished state, or I should say presentable state, is different from another game's. But what we can discuss are the elements that people expect to see in these games. Again, nobody's going to load up a deck builder and say, this game doesn't have exactly 647 cards, well then it's a failure. But they expect to load up a game and say, okay, I can build a deck, I can play with it, I can see how these effects work. I can see the UI is there.
I
Because
can see
again,
that this is fun. I can
yep,
see that this is
pay to
looks
win.
visually pleasing.
Mm-hmm. And if the consumer cannot walk away from your game being excited about it, then it's not ready yet. And as we've said, this is all about that first impression, that first moment somebody loads up your game. If they load up your game and go, ugh, that's not a good sign.
Yeah. If they ever say, "Oh, you need to go back to the drawing board,"
Like that's like if you're watching a streamer YouTuber and they play your game, they go, ugh. Like the second they say that, you should basically just everything else you're doing should stop and figure out why they're making that noise.
mm-hmm.
Because if you don't, I can guarantee you that even if you somehow get that lucky break and you get hundreds or thousands of eyes looking at your store page or your game,
You mean like Among Us?
yep, they're not going to stick around.
Yep, just like Among Us.
Mm-hmm.
Because they have been abandoning that game by the truckload for the last, 2, 3, 4 months?
It blew up, what, in like August or September of last year?
Something like that. I don't remember.
Mm-hmm.
But like they've been bleeding people like crazy. People have been saying the game is dead for like the last, I don't know, 2 months kind of thing. But they've been bleeding out fans since way before then, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And now they released a map, a new update with a new map, and I haven't played it or anything. I don't know the scope of that update. But the fact is they've already bled off a lot of people, kind of thing, and a lot of those are not coming back. I mean, if it's good enough, kind of thing, it'd be good to keep the ones they've got. It may gain 10, 15% of the ones that left, but it's probably not going to gain the other 85%, and they have lost probably millions upon millions, kind of thing. So they're only going to get probably 5 to 15% of those back if it is a pretty good update, kind of thing. And that's sad, because like it's I think it's almost harder to get a player back than it is to get a player to begin with.
Yep. Because getting the player back means you need to go beyond the reason why they stopped playing your game in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
If it's somebody new, you just need to show them something exciting.
Yep.
And
you need to show something exciting to the ones that are coming back, but it's a lot hard to excite people that already know all about your game.
Stuff. Yep. And this is why making a live service game is very difficult.
Mm-hmm. Oh, it's easy. You just put out a game on the internet and it succeeds. Just put a bunch of loot boxes and you're golden. It'll just make all the money. It'll just print it out, right? It's just as simple as that. You can have art that looks like a fried chimpanzee did it. And by fried, I mean like deep fried. He's crusted and he can barely move, and he did the art for the game, kind of thing. And he's got all that crust around him and everything, and not very good art. He's not even a trained a trained chimpanzee. There we go. He's not even a trained one. He was not one of these ones that were trained as an artist or anything. This was just your random one that you told him to do your art, and then but you fried him before that point, and he's half dead and everything, and holding on, and that kind of art.
And again, if you don't, thank you, Matthew. If you don't do this stuff right, as we've said, you get the opposite of that snowball effect. That you're basically like pulling the snowball up the hill instead of trying to push it down. It
You
becomes
get the avalanche effect of where everything's crashing down upon you rather than building you up.
yeah. And we should maybe we should look at the store page for Among Us and give it a review. That could be our famous point. We could maybe get some of those hundreds of thousands of reviews.
Yeah,
We'll
but
say
the game
Among Us.
isn't famous anymore, so
We're a little late then.
yeah, we should have done that like
Mm-hmm.
9 months ago.
Yeah.
I don't think the show was up at that point, but
No, it wasn't.
we should have done that like in the very first episode.
Mm-hmm. But as we've said, I think we'll begin to wrap things up because I think we maybe start like going around in circles here. Just we could review Fortnite. Nobody's ever played that game.
Yeah.
But I guess my final point, like for this, is that as we've said, you want to present your game to people when it's at its very best state at that moment. And when we mean that, we're not talking about things from a size point of view or an hours of content point of view. We're talking about from a quality standpoint. That I can load up your demo or your early access or your, public first alpha of your game, and I can enjoy that. And when I say enjoy it, I mean that what's in there is impressive. And a lot of developers fail to capitalize on that. Because, like we've said, there's a difference between showing your game to a private group of playtesters, to hiring somebody to play and review your game, or even showing it to other developers. Because when you're showing it to people who have no investment in your game, they don't care about your game, and they're only going to give you the raw feedback, you don't want them to be giving you feedback that you already know. As in, if you know your art is bad, you don't want to show to people and they say, yeah, I can't play this game because the art is bad. You just basically wasted that person's time. If your core gameplay loop isn't done, like if you know that there are legitimate problems with this version of your game, don't show to people.
If you know that you're working on a platformer and your levels need level design, don't show it to people until you get some level design in there.
Yeah, because the worst thing you want is to get feedback, and it's all feedback you already know. Because what's the point? What did you improve?
Yeah, you need to improve it, change it vastly before you go back for feedback, because people are only going to point out the feedback that is the most obvious. And once they've pointed all of that stuff out, you need to go fix it
before you show it to people again.
Yeah, exactly. If you're showing it to the same people with the same exact broken, whatever it is, broken level design, broken art, whatever it is, kind of thing, and you show it off to people, people are going to look at it and they're going to point out the same exact things. And they're like, why haven't you fixed this? They may not say that, but they're going to be thinking, why haven't you addressed all this stuff? I said this before. And then when you put it out a third time, they're going to be like,
you're just wasting my time.
Same thing again. Why would I check it out?
Yeah. And again, if you want somebody to do like that level of detail and don't care about that, then you're going to have to pay them for it. And I don't mean pay them with a key. I mean you have to hire them as a consultant who's willing to play every version of your game and expect they're going to give you, like an itemized list of things to fix, and they expect you to fix every single one of those.
Well, what did extra credit say? Well, they didn't say, they said test it as soon as possible, and that is true. But they didn't say retest it before you fix anything from the last testing. They didn't say retest it after, Yeah, the fact is there's a very difference between a minimum viable product and just minimum, Yeah, like, if you have a character that just runs side to side and jumps over stuff, and there's a couple enemies, that's very minimum. That's not a product. That's minimum. That's not a viable product. viable means that it's viable. What's the definition of viable? Able to succeed or something?
Yeah.
Or
in this
something
case,
like
it's
that.
something that you can market and expect people to maybe buy it.
Yeah, it means that it's a viable product, as in something you would sell. And so if it's not something you think that people would viably buy, then it's certainly not a minimum viable product they're going to buy. Kind of thing. There's a big difference between something minimum, and something and a viable product, no matter whether it's minimum or maximum kind of thing. I mean, you want to have a viable product in the end, but you don't focus solely on the first word, minimum. Don't take the minimum and be like, it's
0.1% done.
Yeah, 0.001% done.
Yeah. And like we've said, while you can certainly get useful information from playtesters, from other developers, ultimately, they're not the consumer. And they're a good, they're a good yardstick or a good measuring stick to figure out.
They can be. They won't necessarily, depending on who you talk to.
Yeah.
Especially if you talk to people on itch, because a lot of itch developers are red flag developers. So you definitely need to. There's some definitely legitimate ones over there, but there's a lot of illegitimate ones there that will be like, yeah, your stuff is good. Even when it's not.
Put a $50 price tag on it.
Yeah. If you go on itch and put a $50 price tag, and those people that say your game is good are willing to pay $50, then maybe, yeah. But if I know there's this thing going somewhere, I think it's on Twitter or somewhere, where people are like, you should never ever criticize somebody's game, and you should always tell them it's good.
Ooh.
It's like, no. That is like people having like 50 whole pieces of broccoli stuck in their teeth, like they can barely open and shut their mouth, and they go to somebody that lives in their house and be like, do I look okay to go outside? Yeah, you look perfectly fine, you look great, go on outside.
Yeah. Now
and then you go outside, and then people take photos of you, and then it's all over the memes and the newspaper and everything for a lifetime, and people making fun of you for life. Now, because somebody either was desperately played a really damn big prank on you, or they didn't give a damn about you. And that's why you can never just say that a game is good kind of thing without legitimate thing.
Yeah. Now, to Matthew's comment about game jams are a good way to get a first impression or get a proof of concept. That's not, again, a minimum viable product. Because we've seen developers who will immediately take a game jam game or a student project and put it on Steam or put it on itch with a price tag. No. It's a good way of telling if something is worth developing. And again, you have Superhot, you have Forager, and I'm sure there's other examples out there that...
Now, if you finish in the top 10 of a game jam with thousands and thousands of users kind of thing, then you probably want to continue development of that.
Yeah, like if you win a game jam...
It's not a viable product at that point.
Yeah, like if your game jam concept comes in first place and everybody loves it, you could certainly... That's a very strong metric to develop that further. But again, the key point is develop it further. Not just immediately take that, put it on Steam.
That's what happened with Forager. Because Forager got in the top. I don't know if it won, but he was definitely up there at the top when he did the game jam. And then they took it and developed it further for another couple of years before they released it on Steam.
Yep.
And Superhot as well. Steam, it was a minimum viable product. So they took the game jam, and then 2 years after the game jam, mind you, they basically won that game jam, and then it took them 2 years after that before they had the minimum viable product. But that doesn't mean you shouldn't test before you have a minimum viable product.
Yeah.
You should test way before you have a minimum viable product.
Oh,
you just should not be putting your game up any place for sale
until you have that.
Yeah. And you should probably not even put it any place that people can grab it for free publicly for that point either.
Yeah, you can send like private builds to people. You can, have a small team of people you trust to play test it. But yeah, don't. Yeah, like if you have your first build done, you should not immediately rush to Steam, pay the $100 for the store page, put it publicly, and say, "Here's my game, buy it for $15."
Or put it on itch.io and don't pay anything, and put it publicly and don't charge anything. You don't want that either. Now you can put it on itch and put it privately and give certain people access to the thing, but you don't want to go public. Once you go public, your game is released.
Yep.
That means that may not be a final product, but the game is done at that point.
And again, this is what we talk about making a strong first impression. This will be my final point. Then I'll throw it over to you.
What about the final?
That comes after that. That's a special unlock.
Do they have to get to the Kickstarter rewards to get that?
Yeah. When you put your game up on a store page, whether it's early access or anything along those lines, that is a finished product. That is what people are going to judge that's going to be the metric people are judging your game on. So again, if you're putting your game on Steam, or you're putting on itch, or you're going to Kickstarter, you should not be thinking to yourself, well, I got this list of 40 problems my testers have found. I can ignore that. No. Because, like I've said, when I check a game out on early access, I can tell within a good 20 to 30 minutes whether that game is going to succeed or not. And that comes with experience, and it comes with knowing what the developer has done with it so far. If I leave your early access game and I go, or I'm just like, it's just okay, 9 times out of 10, or even in this case, I think it's 10 times out of 10, I'm going to have that same reaction when I come back to that game in 6 months, 2 years, 8 years from now.
What about 10.1 times out of 10?
Yeah, we're beyond that. And again, the point about this is that you have to be able to understand when your game is at that acceptable level. Again, we're not talking about complaining about, oh, this game doesn't have, 50 more levels to it, or, I'm expecting 80 more cutscenes than what's in your game. I expect when I play your game on early access, or when you send me a build, that this is a finished build. That what's in this should be something that you can take to Steam, or take to itch, or take to Kickstarter, and get people excited about. Because if you can't do that at that state, you can't expect people to get excited. You can't expect to market this. Like, imagine marketing a game and putting in the trailer, we only have 80 bugs and 50 crash issues left in our game. Come buy it for $15.99.
Yeah, that would make a great trailer.
How about that trailer we saw that the game had a memory leak and was running at like 5 frames per second?
Yeah.
I
mean, you never want to retest, you never want to release a game when you know there's problems. Yeah, Goat Simulator is a bad example of that.
Ooh, yes.
Because they did, things that were really bad kind of thing. But they succeeded somehow,
Yeah. And
part of that was because that was when there was no games on Steam, and basically getting on Steam means you succeeded,
Yep.
It
when
was
Steam was like
before the
Hollywood.
days of, getting on, we're way back in the day, getting on
Mm-hmm.
Steam meant you succeeded.
Yeah.
Nothing else was required. You didn't have to have good aesthetics. You didn't have to have good game
As long as
design,
you had a
good
store
UI.
page, you were done.
Yeah. Even if you just had like, like they probably didn't even have limitations there. You could probably post up a game that had no trailers, no screenshots, no about this game page, just a purchase and download button kind of thing. Not even knowing what the genre was, and with no refunds kind of thing, and you got your game on Steam, you would succeed, back when Steam first released.
Yeah. And
Now it is very much the opposite because back then there was only like 10 games on Steam.
that magical period.
Yeah.
Now there's like what, like a few 100,000 at this point.
Probably more than that.
Yeah. And
But like the thing is now, instead of there being 10 games kind of thing, there's possibly millions.
yeah,
And when you go look in there, there is, even if you could fit a even if you could view all games at the same time kind of thing, if you viewed all million at the same time, then on your screen, like 18 or 20 games would be one pixel. You would just see a red pixel or a blue pixel, and that would represent, those 20 games or so, kind of thing.
a neon pixel for Neon Continuum.
Well, it would have to be, 5 neon games.
And
Would be that one pixel kind of, or 20 neon games would be that one pixel kind of thing. But now the fact is you can't see them. So like when you condense them as far as you can possibly see, kind of thing, which is not what Steam does, then you're still only going to see a very few games on that at the same time. Look at your library. If you have, let's say, 50 or more games in your library, see how long it takes you to scroll through all those. And keep in mind that it takes a lot longer to scroll through it when you're looking on Steam, because when you scroll through your library like that, not just a list of names, but when you scroll through the library where it has the pictures and whatnot, when you scroll from that, there's only like 6 or 7 per row kind of thing. Maybe 5. I don't know. I can't remember. But when you scroll through Steam, one game is one row kind of thing. So it's going to take you 7 more times to scroll through that. And if it takes you that long to scroll through 50 games, just imagine, the likelihood of somebody scrolling through that every day. And the thing is there's 30 games released, 30 plus games released every day. And they would have to do that forever. And you would have to nail them. And the only thing they're going to see from that is the name of the game, short, text, and your thumbnail. Yeah. Which is the reason why the thumbnail is so important for the first impressions.
Yeah. And to Will's comment about early access, and again, like for each one that they put out, that version, whether it features one stage, one demo, 2 chapters, is impressive. It is like the content they put out is done, or it's done content-wise and gameplay-wise. And that gets people excited, because if the first thing you put out is really amazing, people are going to assume the next thing you put out is going to be even more amazing. If the first thing you put out is horrible, they're going to assume the next thing you put out is horrible.
Yeah. And Nikita, you don't, when you put out your first version, the quantity doesn't really matter.
It's quality.
I mean, you actually, the quantity does matter. You don't want to give them too much. You want to, but what you do give them, you want it to be the highest of high quality.
Yeah. And about specifically a roguelike, you should be able to, like, again, I think it depends both on the genre and the game itself. Like, if we look at Hades, the very first early access build of Hades was just, I think, literally, I think it was up to the, now I need to remember this. I think it was, like, the first...
Talking about demo, not early access.
If it's just, okay. What was that?
Nikita's talking about demo, not early access.
Okay. Yeah, like if it's like again, like your first build, it should be enough again to get the point across. We're not expecting it to be perfectly balanced. We're not expecting all the assets to be done. But I should be able to enjoy that run. Content wise, core gameplay loop wise, it should be as best as it's going to be.
Yeah. It should be like a finished product that lasts anywhere from 5 to 30 minutes.
Yeah.
You
But
really don't want your demo going on longer than 30 minutes.
which incidentally is why a lot of roguelikes are really good with like a demo or a teaser, because a run is normally 20 to 30 minutes long.
Mm-hmm.
But I think with that, let's start to wrap things up. I've already gave my final point. So, anything from you, Shark, to end the discussion on?
First impressions, when you're talking about hard marketing, has to be finished quality. Not necessarily finished, but finished at that point in time. Meaning that you're not going to add anything to it. You're not going to change it for any reason other than when you release it as a demo or early access or whatever. And people tell you, hey, I don't like this. You need to change it, kind of thing. And then it's no longer final, but it's final until somebody has a problem with it, And you need to have it in a final good quality, that not something that you would spend $1 on, not something but something you would spend $15 or $20 on, something that random people would spend $20 on, kind of thing.
Somebody who's not already a hardcore fan of yours.
Yeah. Go, show people a trailer and or whatever, screenshots, and be like, would you pay $15 or $20 for this? If the answer is maybe, then, that's not bad. If the answer is yes, that's very good. If the answer is no, then you need to look into that.
And they go, ugh.
Yeah.
You need to change something.
Yeah. But what you really want them to do is when they see something about your game, they go, wow, or dang, or I wish I could do that, or,
Yeah.
You want basically people to be envious. And, that sounds kind of full of yourself. But, here's the thing, is if people aren't, talking that way, if people are not envious or wanting that kind of thing really badly, then when you release a game, people are not going to want to buy it.
Yeah, and going back to that my friend Pedro example, there were a lot of developers who were posting comments about, oh my god, I wish my game could look like that, or oh god, how the hell did you do that? And again, that's not the only indicator you need for success, but it's a really good start.
It's one that if you got that, then you are on the right path. You just have to continue down on that path, and and I think that is the path to become a large success, kind of thing.
Yeah.
This is the path to become somebody like Clay. Kind of thing. And that is currently what people are doing with my game, and I'm very happy about that. But it's not ready for the hard marketing yet, and I've got to get it there, and hopefully soon.
Yep, and again, if you know that there's a problem with your game, consumers are going to know that as well. So your game should be ready when you can look at it and go, I can't find a damn thing wrong with it. Because guess what? The consumers are going to probably find a lot more things wrong with it, but at least you've taken care of all the things that you could see.
Yeah, because the fact is when you release a game, you can pour through that. You can have testers pour through it, put tons of hours into it, and be like, the game's completely bug free. Then release the game, get just a measly 100 sales kind of thing, and people will find bugs that you have not found. You will find a few
or
kind of thing.
issues, or
Yeah.
UI UX, and
My last game, before I released it, I was like, this game is bug free kind of thing. and then I released it. It failed horribly commercially, but we did get 100 plus sales, and there was 3-4 bugs that were found kind of thing. And one that was even, appeared on Josh's stream for one time. The first time he booted the game, apparently somehow something enabled the vibration on the controllers, even though that had been completely disabled the entire time. And I had never encountered that. And then the first time Josh boots it up and that goes off and he rants about it. And I'm like, oh my God.
And
really,
again,
that was a bad place for a bug to appear. And the thing is we didn't even fix it kind of thing. And it was already fixed by itself kind of thing. It was some kind of, I think it was some kind of update to one of the things that we were plugging into the thing. And then they broke the thing and then they updated it again and fixed it kind of thing. So it wasn't even our fault,
And remember, I will find your bugs and I will break your game, unintentionally or not.
Yeah.
And a long time ago for it.
Plugins or something, they can break your game too.
Everyone can break a game. It's just that easy. If it is that easy, then you have a big problem with your game. If a consumer says, I turned your game on and broke my computer, that's a bit of an issue there. Yeah.
I still remember that time when you turned it on, and I'm like, that shouldn't be happening. That's never happened before. And like, I was face palming so hard during that. I was like, no.
Yeah.
No.
All right, but with that lovely expression there, let us wrap things up for fear. Does the B stand for Bicer or Breaker? I'm not sure. But with that, let us wrap things up for this week. So thank you everybody for tuning in. If you enjoyed things or want to continue this conversation, be sure to join our respective Discord channels. They are in the links down below. And if you'd like to suggest a topic for a future show, we are always looking for suggestions. Let us know either in the comments of this video, on Twitter, or on Discord.
And make sure to smash the link button for both of our channels. Subscribe, go join both of our Discords, and subscribe and ring the bell to both of our YouTube channels. And did we miss anything?
You can follow me on Twitter at GWBicer.
Right, and you can follow me on Twitter at Nexus Games INC1.
And we have now the hashtag.
Let me not have the one behind my name. Even though there's not a Nexus Game INC nothing, but they required me to have a one.
And if you'd like to submit a game for one of our Indie Inquiry shows, they are held on Thursdays starting around 3:30 p.m. We are always looking for sword pages to review. If you want to catch these shows live, they are Sundays at 4 to 4:30. And some not so subliminal marketing. Be sure to pick up my next book that is due out on April 8th. Where
you're covering up to half of the name of it.
Game design deep dive roguelike. So even though it's mirrored right now, but this is an actual book. It's not an illusion.
And I'm at 43 subscribers right now, and if I can hit 53, then I can have a custom URL. And so 53 of you, come and hit the subscribe button on my channel, because I would like to have my channel not be YouTube.com at a bunch of random letters and numbers.
And
have it at Nexus Games.
And if there's somehow 3,000 people watching this who can subscribe, I'll hit 10K and then I'll become moderately small YouTube success.
Yeah, exactly.
Instead of just small success.
Yeah, exactly.
There we go. People still need to get pizza over here. I'm waiting for Chow to get us some pizza.
I brought all the popcorn to the last one when we had that, and nobody showed up.
All right. But with that said, come back for daily discussions on game design here and not so frequent pizza parties. And we're here on Game Wisdom, where we examine the art and science of games. Until next time, everybody, take care.
See ya.